The final moments of Tyler Robinson's trial were filled with overwhelming tension, the silence inside the courtroom almost suffocating. After weeks of detailed testimony and the presentation of compelling evidence, the nation anxiously awaited the fate of the man convicted of the shocking murder of Charlie Kirk. The emotions ran high as the judge prepared to deliver his sentence. The outcome would mark a significant moment in the trial, but no one could have anticipated what would unfold once the judgment was read. When the judge declared a life sentence without the possibility of parole, the room erupted into disbelief. However, it was not the verdict that left the deepest impact on the court, it was Robinson's reaction to his fate that left everyone in stunned silence.
Welcome to True Crime Tapes, where we bring you the most gripping, mysterious, and heart-stopping stories from the world of true crime. If you're fascinated by the unknown and want to uncover the secrets that the world tries to hide, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a chilling story. And for those of you already part of our community, welcome back. We're glad to have you with us. Drop a comment below to share your thoughts and theories, because we love hearing from you. True Crime Tapes. The truth is always stranger than fiction.
The final day of the trial carried an air of gravity that was impossible to ignore. The Salt Lake City courthouse, typically a quiet place of legal proceedings, was overflowing with people. Journalists, public supporters, and the families of both the victim and the accused filled every seat, adding to the heightened atmosphere. The scene outside was equally intense, with security forces stationed around the courthouse, carefully monitoring the crowd. Barricades and officers ensured that order was maintained as the public gathered in anticipation. Inside, the courtroom was shrouded in stillness, broken only by the rustling of papers and the occasional soft murmur. The case had gripped the nation, and every detail, the forensic evidence, eyewitness testimonies, and the chilling timeline of Charlie Kirk's assassination, had only served to amplify the sense of dread that filled the room. Despite the tension that permeated the courtroom, it was clear to all that the sentencing would be the defining moment of the trial. Would the judge impose the maximum sentence, ensuring Robinson's life behind bars? Or would there be some chance, however small, that he might one day be free? The room felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for the outcome that would forever shape the lives of the people involved. Robinson entered the courtroom under heavy guard. His demeanor was stoic, his face difficult to read, though his avoidance of eye contact with those present was telling. His gaze remained fixed on the table in front of him as he took his seat. Across the room, Erica Kirk and members of Charlie's family sat with faces marked by both sorrow and steely resolve. The weight of the moment was palpable, and every gesture, every breath seemed magnified. Robinson had been a subject of intense scrutiny throughout the trial, with his emotional fluctuations between agitation and detachment causing observers to wonder what was going on in his mind. On this final day, however, he was silent and still, as if preparing for the inevitable. The sense of anticipation was so thick in the air that it seemed the very walls of the courtroom could feel it. As the judge entered the room, the atmosphere shifted immediately. The sound of every person standing, the creak of chairs, and the shuffle of feet filled the otherwise silent space. It was a moment of formality that reminded everyone of the significance of what was about to unfold. The judge, with his calm and composed manner, gestured for the room to be seated before taking his place at the bench. In front of him was a stack of legal documents, the formal record of a trial that had captured the attention of the nation. On one side of the room, the prosecution team sat with their binders neatly closed, their task essentially complete. On the opposite side, Robinson's defense attorneys sat with tension visible on their faces. They knew that there was little more they could do, and whatever was about to happen would mark the end of their work in this case. The judge began by offering procedural remarks, summarizing the process that had brought them to this point. He detailed the jury's guilty verdict and the charges that had been upheld. The weight of the moment was made clear in his deliberate, measured words. This wasn't just another hearing, it was the culmination of a trial that had transfixed the public, and now the responsibility of sentencing was his. Every word seemed to carry the gravity of the situation. As he spoke, the tension in the room became almost unbearable. Family members in the gallery, including Charlie Kirk's loved ones, clutched tissues as their nerves grew tight. Journalists took frantic notes, capturing every moment of the proceedings, while others waited with bated breath for the final lines, the moment that would seal Robinson's fate. Throughout the proceedings, Robinson sat motionless, his hands tightly clasped together in front of him. He looked straight ahead, his body stiff with tension. The judge's voice echoed through the room, each word pronounced with a calm, deliberate pace. The silence stretched on longer than anyone had anticipated. The atmosphere grew thicker, the tension almost unbearable as everyone braced for the moment of truth. It was clear that what would come next was no ordinary moment. Finally, the judge turned to the matter of sentencing, and the courtroom became a place of hushed expectancy. His voice, steady and firm, began outlining the severity of the crime and the impact it had had on both the victim's family and the nation at large. The judge spoke not just of the brutal act but of its broader implications. The assassination had shocked the country, casting doubt on the safety of public gatherings and raising uncomfortable questions about the rise of political violence. The courtroom was quiet as the judge laid out the factors that would guide his decision. The premeditation of the crime, the clear evidence of planning, and Robinson's lack of remorse weighed heavily on the proceedings. While the defense had raised arguments regarding Robinson's mental state, the judge made it clear that these could not diminish the gravity of the crime he had committed. As the judge spoke, the prosecution sat in solemn agreement, having fought relentlessly for the maximum penalty. Across from them, Charlie Kirk and her family listened with bated breath. Their grief was palpable, but their resolve was unwavering. The room held its collective breath as all eyes shifted to Robinson. Sitting motionless, his expression unreadable, he showed no sign of emotion as the judge continued with the sentencing. The tension in the room was palpable, everyone aware that the fate of this man was about to be sealed, for better or worse. The moment the judge finally pronounced the sentence, life in prison without the possibility of parole, the room seemed to exhale in unison. Gasps echoed through the courtroom, and a wave of emotion swept through the gallery. But it was Robinson's reaction that stunned everyone. Without warning, his body lurched forward, and he collapsed onto the defense table before sliding to the floor. His sudden fall was as unexpected as it was dramatic. Deputies rushed to his side, their movements frantic as his defense attorney scrambled to understand what was happening. In mere seconds, the courtroom was thrown into chaos. The sound of chairs scraping against the floor mixed with the murmurs of onlookers who stood, unsure of how to react. For several long seconds, Robinson lay motionless, his body pale and unresponsive. Paramedics, stationed nearby for such an eventuality, quickly rushed to his side, their medical expertise kicking into gear. The judge, momentarily stunned by the turn of events, called for a brief recess while medical personnel assessed Robinson's condition. As the paramedics worked to revive him, cameras in the back of the room flashed incessantly. The sight of the man who had been at the center of the trial, now crumpled on the floor, created a scene no one would soon forget. Robinson's collapse may not have evoked sympathy for the convicted murderer, but it was a moment that revealed the raw human drama of the trial. As he was assisted to his feet and escorted out of the courtroom for medical evaluation, the courtroom slowly regained its composure. But the image of Robinson crumpling at the moment of his sentencing would remain etched in the minds of everyone present. It was a stark contrast to the cold detachment he had shown throughout the trial, a reaction that left an indelible mark on the narrative of the case. For the Kirk family, however, the collapse was a mere sideshow to the real tragedy, the loss of their loved one, Charlie. No physical reaction from Robinson could change the fact that their family had been torn apart. As they silently watched Robinson being escorted from the room, their focus remained on the verdict itself. Justice had been delivered, but the pain of their loss would linger forever. They had endured the harrowing details of the trial, listened to accounts of their loved one's final moments, and yet the sentence was their only form of closure. They remained composed, determined to carry on Charlie's legacy and protect the values he had held dear. The media response to the trial's dramatic conclusion was swift. News outlets rushed to cover the collapse, using it as the defining image of the day. Commentators speculated on what it meant. Was it a sign of remorse or simply the shock of the moment? On social media, reactions ranged from expressions of satisfaction with the sentencing to concerns about the psychological toll of life imprisonment. Some saw Robinson's collapse as symbolic justice, a visual representation of the weight of his crime. For others, it raised difficult questions about how individuals react to such finality. In the days that followed, attention shifted to the practicalities of Robinson's transfer to prison. Given the high-profile nature of the case, law enforcement officials took extra precautions to ensure the security of the transfer. Robinson was placed under medical observation, his condition stable but still a concern. Security measures were heightened during his transport, and his intake into the state correctional system was carefully managed. For the Kirk family, the focus remained on their healing process. Public reactions, while significant, mattered little to them compared to the closure of the verdict. Charlie Kirk, in particular, used her platform to honor her husband's memory, emphasizing that while the trial was over, their personal grief would continue. She expressed her gratitude to those who had supported them through the ordeal, but her words remained focused on the future. Despite the trial's end, the battle for justice was only part of the broader story. The Kirk family's resilience in the face of immense tragedy was the true takeaway from this saga. The story of Tyler Robinson's trial will live on as a reminder of the devastating effects of political violence, but it also serves as a powerful testament to the strength of those left behind. If this story has moved you, don't let it end here. Stay informed and stay involved in the fight for justice and the protection of our communities. Share this story to raise awareness about the consequences of violence and the importance of holding individuals accountable for their actions. Support those affected by tragic events like the Kirk family by spreading compassion, understanding, and a commitment to creating a safer, more just society. Join the conversation, advocate for change, and let your voice be part of a movement that makes a difference.